Hello and welcome back to the channel. A little bit different today. I'm going to do a tier list of all the Championship transfers and rank them from best to least. It's my opinion, so if you don't agree, don't shout at me, but do comment because it helps me. The transfer deadline day has just elapsed at the time of recording, so I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. First up then, Birmingham City. The team that got promoted last season from League One has bounced back at the first time of asking after spending a hell of a lot of money with the new American owners. I think Jay Stansfield came in for 20 million in League One, which was unheard of. It looks like they've been spending money again, but it's hard to tell exactly how much because of undisclosed fees. But by the quality of player they've brought in, it looks like they've spent a pretty penny. Demarai Gray, Kyogo and Tommy Doyle, for example, coming in must demand quite hefty transfer fees and wages. Obviously, Tommy Doyle's in on loan, but he is by some people's definition, a Premier League quality centre midfielder. It looks like they're dipping into the Japanese player market again, not from the Japanese leagues, from European leagues, but they tend to do quite well. They're very technically gifted players. James Beadle, the England under-21 keeper, has come in as well. They haven't started amazingly, and they lost 2-0 to Leicester City in the Saturday just gone, where they played this 4-5-1. Overall, I think Birmingham City are going to do very well this season and at least get top half, if not the playoffs. They look destined to be back to greatness soon. So for me, I think I'm going to give Birmingham City an A, which may be upgraded to an S later in the video. We'll have to see. Next up then, Blackburn Rovers. They've made a few signings that aren't exactly Championship quality level, I don't think. Moussa Baraji, for example, a centre midfielder I've got in my current Football Manager save on this channel. It's released daily at 3 PM if you'd like to check that one out. And that's a player of a second division Slovakian team. So obviously his Football Manager can get it wrong a little bit sometimes, but is he good enough for the Championship? I don't know. A right back who I've had playing in the J League 1, good right back, but Adiga Johnson's son hasn't looked exactly prolific, and they've got him in from Ghent up front. I don't know if this is the year for Blackburn Rovers. I think there's going to be another year of suffering under the Venki ownership. A lot of starting 11 players have gone out. Callum Britton obviously gone to Middlesbrough at right back, and he's been in the starting 11 for the league leaders. In their last game, they lost 2-0 at home to Norwich City, who haven't been tearing up trees really in the recent past, where new signing Sean McLaughlin got sent off for the former Premier League champions. I'm going to give Blackburn Rovers a C because I really don't think they've improved the squad. They've moved on a lot of deadwood and older players by the looks of things, but they haven't really improved a lot. So a C for Blackburn Rovers for me. Bristol City then, they finished in the playoff semi-finals last season after getting beaten by Sheffield United in the semi-final, quite convincingly in the end. They've signed some very interesting players. Radek Vitek in from Man United on loan in goal. Emil Rees up front, a player who's been banging in the goals for Preston in recent years, has come in on a free. And Neto Borges is coming from Middlesbrough, who's a good quality left back for the Championship. He can fill in at centre back as well. But one signing that always amazes me is Joe Lumley. I don't know how he keeps getting professional contracts. He is absolutely awful. But I think he's going to be the deputy to Vitek by the looks of it. Like Blackburn, Bristol City look like they've had a host of players leave. Probably players that aren't good enough for the Championship and are getting on a bit. I know Naki Wells is getting on a bit now. I think he's about 33, 34. And a few youth players being kicked out as well. They lined up in this 3-4-2-1s, which seems to be the norm these days, in their victory against Hull City 4-2 at home in the Championship. I think Gerhard Struber is a very good replacement for Neil Manning, but I don't think they're going to quite do as well as they did last season because of the quality of this upper mid-table battle that's going to happen. I think Bristol City are going to get caught up in that because they're sort of the same sort of quality. I could be proven wrong, but I think it's just going to be a top half finish for Bristol City because they haven't improved the squad that much, even though they have made some good shrewd signings. So Bristol City for me, get a B. Charlton Athletic now, who've just come back to the Championship from League One. They've made some interesting signings. Charlie Kelman, who was banging in the goals for Leyton Orient last season. Rob Apter, he's come in from Blackpool. And Amari Bell, he's come in from Luton. Not the most convincing player in the world, but Thomas Kaminski should be a very good starting goalkeeper for Charlton, because he's been playing a few Premier League games in the recent past when Luton were in the Premier League. Daniel Carnew, a youth player, has gone out on loan to Walsall. No relation to the former Arsenal forward Carnew. Nathan Jones, love him or hate him, is a very good manager. I think he just kind of has a bad reputation because of the way he carries on, but he is a very good manager. However, I think they're going to struggle because they're a victim to the fact that the two teams that have come up with them can outspend them by a million miles. Wrexham and Birmingham are just in a different league financially to them, and they're the sort of teams that they're going to have to be competing against, but they're going to be way up the table, you would have thought, even though Wrexham haven't done very well yet. I think it's going to be a struggle for Charlton to stay up, but I think they might just do it. We'll come on to that later. They lined up in a 4-5-1 in the weekend just gone. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. QPR last week lost 7-1 to Coventry, and you need to beat teams like that. I know you're away from home, but you still need to beat teams like that if you're going to want to stay up. It's a tough league down there at the bottom half of the Championship this season. Tougher than I think it's ever been. Maybe ever, but at least in the recent past. But for me, Charlton get a D because I don't think they've added enough quality, even though Kaminsky's a very good keeper. D for Charlton. Coventry City now then, and they haven't made too many signings. King Kessler-Hayden coming in from Aston Villa. I think it was reported a 1.5 million fee, and Carl Rushworth, don't know much about him, but he's coming in on loan from Brighton, and they seem to produce a lot of good players, so you'd imagine he's quite a good player as well. They've got rid of a lot of players who mainly look like youth players and players that aren't good enough to play for the Championship. Ben Sheaf being the exception to that. He has gone to Wrexham for £6.5 million, so a lot of money in for him. They start the season quite well, but when they played this 4-2-3-1, they only managed a draw against Oxford United, 2-2 away from home. A team they really should be beating even though they are away from home, but Coventry, I think, again, are going to do very well like they have done the last 3 or 4 seasons under Frank Lampard's leadership. For me, even though they didn't make many signings, they didn't lose too many, and they're keeping that core of the squad together. So I think I'm going to give them a B for their transfer business, or lack thereof, for this summer. Derby County now then, and they've made some interesting signings. Carlton Morris came in early in the window, in from Luton up front. And deadline day, they've also signed Ben Brereton Diaz from Southampton in on loan, which begs the question, where are they going to play together? In their last game, Derby played a 3-4-2-1 under John Eustace, and in that game, they drew 2-2 with Ipswich, which is a fantastic result for them away from home. I don't really see Ben Brereton Diaz and Carlton Morris playing together, so I think they're going to take turns playing up front, because I know Ben Brereton Diaz can play on the wing, but if they're playing a 3-4-2-1, it doesn't look like they will be playing with wingers. They've had a lot of older players go out the squad. Nathaniel Mendes-Lang, Connor Washington, that's a player I haven't heard for in a long time. And Jeff Hendrick, he's 33, another older player that's gone out the door. And the signings that they've made don't really blow your socks off, but they're good signings nonetheless. Lewis Travis coming in from Blackburn, another Blackburn player that's trying to get out the door as soon as they can, I think. But overall, keeping it short and sweet, I think I'm going to give Derby, like Charlton, a D, because they haven't done enough, and that bottom half of the table is going to be very competitive. Hull City now then, and everybody's tipped them for a very poor season, but based on the signings they've made, they should be doing a lot better than what people have predicted. Brandon Williams, he's obviously had a few issues off the field, so he hasn't had a team after being released by Man United, but he's finally been able to find a club in the form of Hull. Another player in from the Turkish leagues, obviously Hull's owner is Turkish and he has lots of fingers and lots of pies in Turkey. Ollie McBurney, he's come in from playing in Las Palmas in the Spanish leagues. He obviously played very well for Sheffield United when he was here up front. A few players from Turkey, I don't really know a lot about these players from Turkey, but Joe Lundstrom, obviously, he was a very good Championship player when he was here last. A lot of players leaving, probably youth players by the looks of it as well. Don't recognise too many of those names, but they're a hell of a lot of players leaving for free or to lower division teams. I hear a lot of bad noises coming out of Hull, but I don't see really why. There must be something going on. Otherwise, there's no smoke without fire. So I'm going to give Hull a C for now. This is how they lined up in their defeat to Bristol City 4-2 that we just talked about. And they have some good players. Ryan Giles is a good player. Pander's a good goalkeeper. I know Middlesbrough in for him at one point. Joe Gelhardt in behind Ollie McBurney. They're both very good players. John Lundstrom. They should be comfortably a Championship team. I don't think they're going to break into the top half, but only by a small amount. But everyone seems to think they're going to be very poor. A C for me. Ipswich Town now, they've obviously come down from the Premier League and they've been spending a lot of money. I mean, they spent a lot of money when they were up there as well. That lad in from the Danish leagues for 17.5 million. I can't pronounce that name, no chance. Nunes in from Norwich, obviously that was a bit of a controversial one. Chuba Akpom, the 29-goal player for Middlesbrough a couple of seasons ago, comes in on loan from Ajax. He hasn't really found his feet since leaving Middlesbrough. I know Ipswich were in for Hayden Hackney and had a £25 million offer accepted, but Hayden Hackney turned them down to stay with Middlesbrough. They've had a few players leave. Nathan Broadhead for £10 million at Wrexham seems like poor business from Wrexham, but great business from Ipswich. Amari Hutchinson, who has financed a lot of these transfers, you would imagine, leaving for £37.5 million to Nottingham Forest. A very good winger, but obviously too good for the Championship. Some older players like Sam Morsey leaving as well to clear the books. And obviously Liam Delap, who left pretty much on the first day of the transfer window to Chelsea for £30 million. So there's a lot of money swirling around at Ipswich. I think overall they maybe haven't improved the squad from the end of last season where they were relegated from the Premier League, but with the likes of Amari Hutchinson and Liam Delap leaving. But I think they've done very well to plug the holes that were left by those players. I think Kieran McKenna's a very good manager. I think he's technically very sound. I think Ipswich are going to do very well. But as far as the window's gone for them, I'm going to give them a B because they haven't really improved the squad. I think they're going to do very well in the season, don't get me wrong. But as we're ranking the transfer window here, and if the squad's better than it was at the start of the transfer window, and I don't think it quite is, but they've done a fairly good job at building a good squad, and it is a good squad, very good squad. This is how they lined up in their last game, their 2-2 draw away to Ipswich. Ashley Young as well has come in. He obviously is an experienced head in from Everton. He's been playing for Man United, Aston Villa, whoever you can think of, he's played for them. And maybe that's what the squad needs, a bit of experience. And they have a lot of talent, and I think they're going to have a bit of a title charge. But for me, a B for Ipswich. Next up then, an interesting one, Leicester City. Obviously they have their financial restriction because of how much they've spent in the recent past. So they haven't had any transfer fees go out, but they've got in Asmir Begovic, who I thought retired about 15 years ago, but he keeps popping up everywhere, and a player on loan from Feyenoord. Outgoing, they've had a lot of players. £10 million for James Justin to Leeds, Casey McAteer to Ipswich for £14 million, Hermansen to West Ham for £18 million, and Didi for £8.5 million to Besiktas, Connor Cody for £2 million to Wrexham. A lot of money coming in. Obviously, they need to balance the books, otherwise they wouldn't be selling so many. I think they have weakened the squad quite considerably. And talismans like Jamie Vardy have left the team, and they've lost a bit of that identity, but they're still a very good team. They did very well in the Championship last time they were here a couple of years ago. Obviously, they've just come back down from the Premier League. But for me, because of the financial restrictions, obviously, they've weakened the team. An E for me, for Leicester City. Not a lot they could do about it, though, I don't think. Now, moving on to Middlesbrough. Obviously, I have my impartial shirt on today, a Gillingham shirt, who are obviously League 2. But I'm trying to keep as impartial as possible. But I think they've had a very good window. Middlesbrough started very slowly in the transfer window. I'm trying not to say we, I'm trying to be impartial. But they just ramped up, and towards the end they've ended up with one of the best transfer windows since the likes of signing Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, Mark Viduka and Mendieta in the same window. On deadline day, they brought in David Strelec, a striker from Slovan Bratislava that Celtic were in for a long, long time. They've been trying to get this guy in for 9 months. Matt Targett in and loan from Newcastle. He is a very good left wing back for this role, for this division. They only paid $15 million for him 3 years ago, so to get him in on a free loan seems like very good business. A lot of players have left who weren't going to be in the starting lineup. Tom Glover, McCabe, Fors, Borges. Well, he might have been in the starting lineup, but he's gone to Bristol. Adilson Malanda, who I made a short about if you haven't seen that, he's going to come in January, but he's been signed from Charlotte. He's a centre-back. Severi Naipan, a very exciting player in on loan from Man City. They just paid £15 million for him. Sonte Hansen, he's just come in from NEC in the Dutch leagues, £3.9 million. Looks like a very tidy player. Callum Britton, as mentioned before, come in from Blackburn, I think for about £3.5 million. Abdoulaye Kante from the French leagues, a centre defensive mid. He looks okay. And Alfie Jones, a starting centre-back in from Hull. And on the other end, they've had a lot of departures for a lot of money as well. Finn Azaz to Southampton for £15 million. Rav van den Berg to Cologne for £11.2 million. and Josh Coburn to Millwall for 5 million. The Millwall fans don't seem too happy about that one, but it's very good business for Middlesbrough. I think he's a good player, but I don't think it's worth 5 million. And Middlesbrough obviously have had a very good start to the season, top of the table with a perfect 12 points, 4 wins from 4. I think Middlesbrough might have done an A-tier transfer window. This is how they lined up in their 1-0 win to Sheffield United at home in a 3-4-2-1. I did a matchday vlog if you'd like to watch that. That's on the channel as well. It was the 30th anniversary of the Riverside. Good things ahead for Middlesbrough Football Club under Rob Edwards, I think. Millwall now. And Millwall were some people's dark horses for promotion, and I was one of them before the start of the season at least. They've just lost Japhet Tanganga to Sheffield United for £10 million, who are in a bit of a panic mode, I think, Sheffield United, to try and get players in. George Saville, he's finally left after playing for Millwall for many, many years in the centre of the park to Luton in League One. George Honeyman, again, he's been playing in the middle of the park for Millwall for a long, long time, gone to Blackpool. Players who were very good servants for the club, but obviously have passed it now a bit. 2 former Middlesbrough players as well, Aaron Connolly and Duncan Watmore, have left. I'm surprised Duncan Watmore hasn't found a team yet, as far as I'm aware anyway. I haven't really checked. Josh Colburn's come in for a club record £5 million transfer fee, as we've just talked about. But I thought... Alfie Doherty as well, a good left wing back. He's come in from Luton. I thought Millwall would have done a lot better at the start of the season than they have, but they seem to have lost a bit of their grit and fight. Ivanovic and Coburn playing up top in their last game. 2 big strikers, which doesn't seem to be the norm at the minute. You thought you'd have 1 big striker at the most. But Millwall lost 2-0 at home to Wrexham. I think that's their first points of the season for Wrexham. And Saturday just gone. So not the result that you want to see. I think Millwall will be fine, obviously, for the Championship survival. But I think they'll be struggling to get to the playoffs this season. And I think it's going to be another mid-table finish for Millwall. So I'm going to give them a D, mainly for the amount of money they paid for Josh Coburn. I think that's quite bad from them. Norwich City now then, and I saw this player play against Middlesbrough a couple of weeks ago for Norwich. Pape Diallo in from Metz for 4.3 million. He looks like a steal for 4.3 million. He looks like a very good player. A few similarly sort of low millions transfer fees: 3 million, 1 million, 3.5 million, 4 million. Obviously, they're doing a bit of a rebuild at Norwich. Just under 7 million for this Danish fella. No chance I'm pronouncing that. 3 million for Jacob Wright from Man City. Obviously, the new manager Neil Manning's come in, and he's signed players like Harry Darling for free from Swansea. I think that's a fantastic transfer. I think Harry Darling's a very good centre back. Obviously, they've had Nunez go to Ipswich in a very controversial £10 million transfer, and Borja Sainz to Porto for 14.5 million. He was far too good for this league, Borja Sainz. Jonathan Rowe, I think that was a pre-arranged transfer to Marseille. I think he was on loan, and then it was always going to be a £17 million transfer fee to Marseille when it came round to it. But it's hard to judge because I'm not really sure, like a lot of people, how good these players are going to be, because they've come in from different sort of leagues, like the Danish league and the Portuguese league and the French league. So it's difficult to see how they're going to weigh up in the Championship. It's a different sort of league. Will they be able to adapt? I know that Diallo will. He looks like a very good player. But I'm going to go middle of the park for Norwich, a C. I think I might be proven wrong, but it's hard to judge them. So a C for Norwich. Oxford United now. They've had some good recent results. They drew 2-2 at home to Coventry. Yeah, at home to Coventry 2-2. And they haven't improved the squad that much. And I don't think this is going to be the year for Oxford United, because, like I just said earlier in the video, Wrexham and Birmingham have come up, and they're going to be finishing above Oxford United, you would have thought, which pushes the rest of the table down 2 positions. Well, not like they're going to win, but, you know, the bottom half at least, they're going to be pushed down. And Oxford United barely survived last season, and I don't think they've improved the squad that much this season. So I don't think Oxford are long for the Championship, in my opinion. Could be proven wrong, of course. For me, might be harsh to some, but Oxford United get an E. They need to really push on from last season, and they haven't. This is how they lined up in their 2-2 draw to Coventry. Obviously, a fantastic result. Brannigan's a very good centre mid, Championship quality centre mid. And Goodrum's a very good winger. Lancashire is on loan from Tottenham, I think. Yeah, on loan from Tottenham. So he might prove to be quite good. I know a lot of Championship clubs have been sniffing around him, but I really don't think they've done enough. E for me for Oxford United. I think they're going to be down. Portsmouth now then. They have been in the Championship for a few years now, I think, if memory serves correctly. And they're another one who haven't really pushed on. I don't think they are financially secure enough. Obviously, they've had their financial issues in the past, well, quite a long time ago now. They don't seem to have made that many signings as well. Obviously, they're doing better than Southampton this year in the Championship. So far, they've had a good start. They've had a 1-0 home win to Preston in the weekend just gone when they lined up like this in this 4-2-3-1. Swift, obviously, a very good player for the Championship. And Bishop, who got 4 goals in 1 game last season for Pompey, he's still in the team. Ogilvie, who has been up and down the leagues. He was in League 1, League 2. He played for Gillingham for a while. Good player. Last time he was at the Riverside, I seen him play against Portsmouth, and he was solid that day. Really, really good. I think Portsmouth are going to be in the mid-table battle. I think they're good enough to avoid a relegation battle, but I don't recognise enough from this transfer dealings to warrant them being much, much better than what they were last season. And I think it's that sort of season that you really have to improve if you're gonna do as well as you did last season, because of the quality of the league this season. So for me, I think Portsmouth get a D. Might be harsh, might be proven wrong, but a D for me. Preston now then. Alfie Devine's coming from Spurs on loan, a good centre midfielder, probably a Premier League centre midfielder in the future, you'd have thought. Iverson in from Leicester as a goalkeeper. Did he start at the weekend? Yes, he did. The starting goalkeeper for Preston is now Iverson. Thierry Small in from Charlton on the left back position as well, starting for them. Daniel Jefferson, an interesting one, in from loan, obviously as a replacement for Emil Rees, who has now left for Bristol City. We just mentioned they lost 1-0 to Portsmouth in the previous round. And I think they've just kind of maintained the status quo of the quality of the squad. There's no real players that are going to really change up the quality of the team, as far as I can see anyway. So Preston, for me, like Portsmouth, haven't improved the team that much, so they get a D as well. Moving on then to QPR. Obviously, they haven't had the best start of the season. They did win 3-1 to Charlton in the weekend just gone. This is how they lined up. Richard Kone is a very interesting signing for them, though, up front. A lot of teams were in for him. He played very well last season in League One for Wycombe Wanderers. Can he make the step up to the Championship? Time will tell. Charlie Kelman was probably going to be in the starting lineup for QPR, but Charlton have come in and bought him for a quite significant fee. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he's a good player. QPR's season really might be able to turn around after the 7-1 dismantling by Coventry. They're on the up already. Maybe that's the wake-up call that they need as a squad to turn it around. And I think the Richard Kone signing is a very, very good one. So they do one better than Preston and Portsmouth for me, and they get a C. Sheffield United now, and this is probably the most interesting transfer window to talk about in my opinion. They were moments away from being in the Premier League, and they've started miserably. 4 losses from 4, and I think they've made a few panic signings. Tahith Chong in from Luton. He is obviously one of the Man United Academy players. I really like him as a winger. He's a good player. Ogbene in from Ipswich. Tanganga, 10 million in from Millwall that we just talked about. Danny Ings, who was going to go at Middlesbrough, but he's come to Sheffield United after Middlesbrough, I think, turned him down. Ben Godfrey in from Atlanta on loan. Louis Barry, he played at the weekend that I did the matchday vlog for, and he was pretty poor. I think the whole team was pretty poor, honestly, when they played Middlesbrough. Ryan Brewster, obviously a bit of a flop. He's gone to Derby after his, I think it was £20 million signing from Liverpool. Never really materialised for him. And I think once Ruben Sellers gets sacked, which has to be soon, you'd have thought, they're going to get, maybe they get Chris Wilder back, that would be funny, but they're going to get an experienced manager in, and I think they're going to turn it around. And we'll see at my end of season prediction table at the end that I think Sheffield United are really going to turn it around and rocket up the table in a similar sort of fashion to Middlesbrough a couple of seasons ago, where they got Chuba Akpom scoring, he got 29 goals and they got to the playoffs. I think it's going to be a sort of similar season for Sheffield United. And their signings while they don't blow you away, are pretty good. So I'm going to give them a B, Sheffield United. Sheffield Wednesday now, and I've made a bit on the table right at the bottom, especially for them. Let's just put them in there now. They have been dreadful in the transfer market because their owner is bleeding the club dry. You can't help but feel sorry for them, really. They've only really sold players or like let players leave for free. Windass left for free after he wasn't paid to Wrexham. Just letting money walk out the door, really. One of the worst transfer windows that anybody could really hope for. Barry Bannon signed a new contract, so I don't really know what's going on there financially. And they do have some good players in the team, and this is how they lined up in their 2-0 defeat the weekend of the 3-4-1-2. In their defeat at home to Swansea, they're sitting in the relegation zone, only propped up by their City compatriot Sheffield United, who have had an even worse start somehow, miraculously, but I don't think it's going to end like that come the end of the season. But Sheffield Wednesday have their own tier right at the bottom, the Chasiri-tier. Southampton now, and this is also quite an interesting one. Tyler Dibbling did leave for Everton for £42 million. He is a good player though, but I don't know if he's worth £42 million. I think he will be one day, that's for sure. He joins the likes of Jack Grealish at Everton. Mateus Fernandes, he's gone to West Ham for £42 million as well, so £84 million brought in for Southampton, which will do them well in their rebuild. Will still obviously being tipped for a lot of championship jobs, has finally come in to Southampton. They've signed a player from Middlesbrough, Finn Azaz, a very talented player, but he's like Bruno Fernandes for me, where he tries a lot and if it doesn't come off, you look like an idiot. But a good player nonetheless. I think they'll very much be in the title contention for this season, and they've had a lot of players go out and run, like obviously players that don't want to play in the Championship that were playing in the Premier League. Obviously they weren't good enough for the Premier League either because of how well they did. I think under Will still they'll do very well, but I don't think this transfer window really blew you away for the amount of money. So they got all this Premier League money and all the parachute payments, and they've made 84 million from player sales from 2 players, and they got another 6.8 million from this player to Trabzonspor in the Turkish league. So what's that? Over 90 million pounds in player sales alone. And they have made a few signs like Tom Fellows, Finn Azaz. I mean, these are very good championship level players. Obviously they're not anywhere near as good as they were at the end of last season. So a B for me. They're still a very good team. Not quite as good as they were last season, but they have a hell of a lot of money now, so good negotiating nonetheless. B for me. At the weekend just gone, they drew 2-2 to Watford, and they lined up like this in a 3-4-2-1. Some very good players in here. Nathan Wood, obviously a very good defender, came through at Middlesbrough, has been at Swansea. Harwood Bellis, Premier League quality centre-back in my opinion. Bazunu, very good keeper. He should be in the Premier League as well in my opinion. Finn Azaz, obviously, he's just come in for £15 million. Cameron Archer, excellent striker for this level. Or maybe even too good for this level. So they're going to do very well. And now moving on to everyone's surprise package, Stoke. They were top of the table 3 games in. They've just been knocked off now. I thought they'd made some very interesting signings, very experienced signings, but very good signings. Nzonzi comes in. Aaron Creswell comes in. Mubama comes in. He's been at West Ham, I think he was, and then he went to Man City's academy, and now he's been out on loan. But I've had him in Football Manager, which is why I know about him. I think he's a very good striker. Sorba Thomas as well, a winger from Huddersfield. I'm surprised he hasn't been back in the Championship sooner. I think he was out on loan to a French team. Might be wrong on that one, but a very good player. Experienced players throughout this team sprinkled in, and they've done very well. No massive departures from them, but even though I think they were in a relegation battle last season, and they turned it around in the end. But I think Stoke are obviously going to fall off from the top 5 positions, and they're going to fall into mid-table mediocrity. But I don't think they're as bad as people thought they were going to be. I think a lot of people had them in the relegation zone pre-season. So for me, I want to give them an A, but I think I'm going to give them a B at the end. A B for Stoke City. Johansson's a very good keeper that they've got in there. Cresswell, obviously, left back. He's 35, but he's good. Manhoff, he's a very good right winger. Mubama, Thomas, these front 3 are very good. Bay, just behind the striker, he's very good. This is how they lined up in their 1-0 defeat at home to West Brom in the weekend just gone, which knocked them off top of the table. Swansea now then. Harry Darling's gone to Norwich, as we mentioned before, which is a bit of a blow to them. And club icon Joe Allen has left as well, obviously too old to continue on playing at that sort of level, you would have thought. They've signed Ethan Galbraith from Leyton Orient for £1.5 million. They've signed Bobby Wales. That's a fantastic signing for Swansea for £300k from Kilmarnock. But I don't think they've improved the squad that much. And you've got players like Joe Allen leaving, obviously, from age. But you need to replace them. And I don't think they've replaced them with really high quality players. Players from the lower divisions and from Scotland aren't really going to improve championship quality teams, I don't think, in my opinion. So for me, it's not quite an E, but I'm going to give Swansea a D. Potentially going to be the second best team in Wales after Wrexham's come up and spent a lot of money. And this was the year to be the most dominant team in Wales after Cardiff got relegated, but I don't think it's going to be. I think they're going to get pipped to the post by Wrexham. Watford now. And Watford are an interesting team. Watford are another one where they've signed players from outside the English leagues, so it's hard to judge on how well they'll do. Obviously, players like Mark Bowler have played for in Championship teams before and done very well. But all these players from the French leagues might find it difficult to get up to the pace of the Championship. But they might not. They might come good. Time will tell. But for me, Watford, similarly to Norwich, because we don't know how well they're going to do with all these players from foreign leagues and how they're going to adapt, they're going to get a C as well with Norwich. West Brom now. I think this is going to be the surprise package of the season. Illing Jr. on loan from Aston Villa. He might not have had to move house, Illing Jr. He's a very good player. Alfie Gilchrist, a lot of people were in for him. He's come in from Chelsea for 1.2 million. A hell of a deal that is. Well, it could be. We'll see. Time will tell, but I think it will be. Chris Meffam in from Bournemouth. A very good signing for the Championship. $1.5 million for him. Some very good signings. Nat Phillips as well from Liverpool for $3 million. I think they're going to be one of the surprise packages of the season. They've had a few players leave, like Swift, Furlong, Hegem, Fellows, but they've got £24 million there for those three players. So they need to finance the club somehow, and that might be how they're doing it. Some not insignificant transfer fees outgoing as well. What about just over £5 million spent there? And that's not including the undisclosed fees. So for me, West Bromwich Albion get an A. Finally, out of the 24 teams, we have Moneybags Wrexham. They've got rid of some players that they used in the lower divisions to get promoted out the door, because there must have been a few in there. You don't get 3 back-to-back promotions without picking up a bit of deadwood. Paul Mullen going out on loan to Wigan. A bit of a club icon nowadays is Paul Mullen. They have Ben Sheaf in for 6.5 million. Callum Doyle from Man City for 8 million. Nathan Broadhead for 10 million, which is a bit steep in my opinion. Kiefer Moore for 2 million. I think Sheffield United fans might have drove them there themselves after that playoff final pass to the Sunderland player. Connor Cody for £2 million from Leicester, the wannabe commentator. Josh Windass, the aforementioned player from Sheffield Wednesday, coming in on a free because he wasn't paid. And Ryan Hardy in for 700k from Plymouth. I thought they would have gone for a higher calibre. Well, they've gone Ryan Hardy, who's a striker, for 700k, but then they've got Kiefer Moore and Nathan Broadhead. So I don't think if I was Ryan Hardy that I'd be much pleased about coming in after those two have come in over the top of me. Danny Ward as well in goal, a former Premier League player in goal for Wrexham, and I think you have to give them, and even though they haven't started very well, you need to give them time to gel. I do think they're going to do well in the end, eventually at least. I'm going to give them an A. This is how I think the final table is going to look at the end of the season. Southampton and Ipswich, for me, are quite clearly better than the rest of the table in terms of quality. Whether they can convert that quality into performances, we'll have to wait and see. Coventry, Middlesbrough, West Bromwich Albion and Birmingham City for the playoffs for me, while Sheffield United will get the charge back, but not quite do it. Leicester City obviously have lost a bit of quality after coming down from the Premier League, but I think they are still quite a good team, so they finished just outside the playoffs for me. Millwall, Bristol City, Norwich City, Watford, Stoke, all in the same sort of group where they are a good team, but not as good as the teams above them. Wrexham and Swansea I've got together, nice little Welsh contingent. I think Wrexham are going to struggle to get up to the pace of the Championship in their first season, but I think next season they're going to do better. Swansea, similarly, just another mid-table finish for them. Hull City, Blackburn, Preston, Portsmouth, Derby, Charlton and QPR, I can't really have much between them. I think there's a little bit of a gap between the Charlton QPRs and the rest of them, but I think any of them could go down realistically. And then for me, Oxford United and Sheffield Wednesday will be relegated. Don't know if I'm going to be proven right, but we'll have to wait and see. That's my opinion on the season. Before I go, I'm just going to make one quick change to the table and move Middlesbrough up to S tier. Come on, Deborah. We're going to win the league. And that's it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like on the video. Watch another one on screen if you'd like to. And subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you enjoyed this different sort of video. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.